Hi, everybody. We are here with Belly Dance Stories podcast. My name is Alexandra Molina, and this is Valerie Molinari, my co-director. We are super excited today because this episode is, it's going to have a lot of really good information. So you might want to take notes. I don't know. But this episode is, we brought two of our sponsors, Kendrick and Andres, and we'll introduce them in a minute. But we are going to be talking about event funding and getting funding for creators in general. So it's basically a podcast about money and creativity and our industry and in multidisciplinary industries as well. So we're going to have a really cool conversation and also talk about our experiences with the funding. We all have like a collective story, but also separate stories. And this is a little bit of a sub-story of the origin of Belly Dance Stories. So if you haven't checked out how Valerie and I first started Belly Dance Stories, you can do so. We have the first episode of our podcast is called The Origin Story. So check that one out. So I'm going to introduce our sponsors and our interviewees here. We have Kendrick Vasquez. He is the co-founder and CEO of HGAB Studios. And HGAB Studios is a photography, video, and podcast solution for brands and the modern creator. And we are currently in the podcast studio room of HGAB Studios. And our other interviewee is Andrej Polania. He is the CFO of HGAB Studios and the CEO of Andrej Gottliech. Thank you guys so much for coming and being a part of our Belly Dance Stories podcast.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
So we have our first question, which actually we ask all of our interviewees.
We ask every podcast with this question.
What is your story? How did you two meet? And tell us a little bit about each of you.
Cool. Do you want me to start with what my story is as far as like how we started HGAB a little bit and then how we met?
Sure.
Would that be better?
Yeah, I think it will be the chronological way there.
Okay, cool. Okay, so our story is very simple. Our story starts with four friends who really enjoyed production and creating and really not knowing or having a space to be able to do that and collectively coming together to create a space for our creative community to be able to flourish and do what they do best without having to worry so much about the ins and outs of everything that it takes to run and operate a production. So I am one of four founders. I have three other partners, Chris, Mariana, and Biscayne. And we collectively came together to create what you see now as HGAB Studios. With that being said, then we met a lovely individual by the name of Andres. And he can take over from there.
So we're talking about HGAB, right?
Well, we're talking about how we met.
Your story.
How we met. Oh, how we met.
Who are you, Andrej?
And myself. So I'm going to go with the HGAB part first. So I met Kendrick about 10 years ago and 6 months. It was when I started at the bank, at a particular bank that I was working for, and he was a person that used to come in regularly. So, started talking, very entrepreneurial guy, all these things. I met Biscayne too. She was doing that. And then after a few years, I saw him going through company after company, t-shirts, this, that. And then finally the studio happened. And he goes to me one day, he's like, dude, I have this place in Wynwood. It's a little office. It wasn't all that you see now. It was a little office and you have to come and see it. I don't know what to do with it. So I'm okay. I came to visit and after seeing everything, I was like, you have a gold mine over here. You can do this, you can try this. But at the end, of course, they started working and developing and the whole studio.
Same location.
This same location. It was just all the way in the back. They only had the little office and then one studio.
Were you his client?
So I was working with a company where we would frequent the bank where he was working in.
Okay.
And as I was coming in there year after year after year, I obviously became very good friends.
Develop a friendship.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would always go to Andres for advice, financial advice. I still do, of course.
Yeah.
So when we found HGAB and the location, we, like he was saying, it was at the far corner of the building, very small. We only had one little office and one studio at the time. And I invited him over because I thought, this could be a good opportunity for him to see the space and finally see all the craziness that I have been building up to year after year after knowing him. And I wanted to see how he could also be of value to us financially to help us navigate the financial world. And I'm very excited and happy that he was so excited to come and check out the space and see what we were doing, because as soon as he stepped into the building, I think we were having an event that night. I could just see, all the cylinders firing at the same time. And after the fact, he was like, hey, we can do this, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this. And I thought that was actually really special because we needed the help, And essentially when we brought Andres on board and when he decided that he wanted to work with us, we had asked him to do a role that had nothing to do with finances, had nothing to do with anything that he's doing now, but he was very eager and excited to work with us that he was like, let's do it, And then from there, he more or less developed his own role, which I thought was very cool. That he was like, hey, listen, I can do this, but I can do this, and that's going to be way better for you. And luckily for us, we were all like, okay, let's do it.
That is very true. I always, when I come to a position, and like, fine, I was managing part of the bank and the whole thing, so I can be as a manager, production, all these things, so organize things. And I always try to do, it's like, let me fire myself. Let me get this job so efficiently that I will not need to be there. And then, so I kind of did that, and everything went kind of on our website, and everything gets organized, and it still works to that day that way.
Yeah.
And that's how it separated the work. And then I started asking, how much does it cost to run this place? How much do you make? How much will... So that's when I started kind of getting in better into that. A little funny part, when I came the first time to see the place, that the studio was still full of things, one of his co-founders, Chris, which is our engineer today, I went to college with him. We used to play in the same soccer teams. Like, Chris, what are you doing here? Like, so it was very, very exciting. It's already like a small
Everything
world.
was
A small
to align.
So I found that was very, very interesting.
I had no idea until he
I
came
saw
that
him,
day.
yeah.
It's like, I went to
on
school
that
with this
particular
guy. I was
day.
like, no way. Like,
Yeah.
super cool. Super cool.
Small
So, yeah.
world. Creatives have a very small world, especially in Miami.
Yep, that's very true.
So since then, I started little by little taking over, and at some point I was the official chief financial officer, which I oversee money in, money out. Managed to get the first lending for HGAB to get professional grade equipment, and everything is a fit. Everything is a lot of work. Nothing comes simple, and but we have learned to go through that and to make it happen.
That was a very important pillar that at the time I didn't know that we needed until he came in and he was like, look, I can do this for you. And honestly, I would have to say that we wouldn't be in the place we are today if Andres wouldn't have come in to the group.
Jump on board.
Yeah, jump on board and talk a little bit about money and how to invest, what you have and how to make it grow.
Right.
That's important to have someone like that in our fields, because as a creative, I can speak from experience, and I know Val can too, that our minds are, pulled in so many ways. So to have somebody there help us that kind of has that other mindset, that structure with numbers and money, and kind of helping us see other things outside of what we're doing is just very helpful. It's good to have that help.
Yeah.
And not even people don't take into account their own personal knowledge of how money works and how banks work and all of that, and then they don't work on themselves on that particular area. So when it's, you get a person who gets out of college and you're like, okay, I'm an adult now. It's like, well, you have no credit, you have no this, you have no that. You did not get ready for it. And if funny, most people at HGAB at that moment, they were not ready, but I saw the opportunities. Like, it can be done quicker, a year, 2 years, 3 years, but you need the discipline, you need this, and I had the know-how, and they allowed me to, and then everybody grows together, the company and the person.
Andres not only, I'm sorry to cut you off, but Andres not only helped the business finance, but he also took the time to individually help all of us on our own personal finances, which I thought was like so special because he cared. He didn't just care about the project that we were doing. He cared about the people who was involved in the project. And he knew that if the people who are involved, until this day, we do the same thing with all of our employees and all that good stuff. Like if the people who are involved in the project are not okay, then the project will
not
not be
gonna
okay.
work. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so super special, and thank you again
Andre,
for that.
your background is then in finances. You went to school for that?
No.
No.
I have a degree in biology and biochemistry, and I pretty much learned how nature stacks things up. That if something fails, everything falls in. So I started applying a lot of things to my life, first of all, how I eat, how I exercise, how I balance everything. I don't like balance, I like contrast. And then I started applying it to my little projects and all that. And then when I came to HGAB, something I learned from HGAB that I didn't have, I was like like to play safe. I was very, I will overthink it sometimes. And then from Kendrick and everybody here, it was like, we go head on. And then sometimes that will cost you in time and money. While I was more on the that will cost me on time and money. So I found a nice middle, at least for myself. That's what I learned from being at HGAB. Take some risk, but still do your thinking, still do your math, still try. But yeah, my degree is on biochemistry, biological things, and then how nature sets things up. Mm-hmm. So every single time I'm setting up a company or thinking of an idea, I'd set it up in a way, in a similar way that if this fails, it falls on here and it continues. If two fail, it falls on here and it continues. So I always find a way through, and then so I try to think as many things as possible. So yeah, that's my background. Oh, and 15 years in banking.
Yeah. Talk about the finance part.
The finance part,
That's
yeah.
what I was aiming with the question, because then you got that financial education. Because I have mentors that it's surprisingly, because many got their financial education basically by working in a bank.
Correct.
And many of us in real life basically get our financial education basically by making mistakes in life. So that's what I wanted to get, because I think... yeah.
Yes. No, but in the bank, so not everybody at the bank learns about money. Not everybody learns about business. Not everybody that works at the bank learns all of those things. It comes out of their own curiosity for the clientele that comes in. I was in an affluent market, meaning that most of these people are attorneys, they are doctors, they're entrepreneurs, the people that own many businesses. So I learned from them because I asked them, how do you start it? And they open up. They will tell you everything. So I was very receptive to that. So I learned from their experiences, from their mistakes. And in the bank, of course, you have a portfolio of success and failures and how money works and how you see a business. Like, oh, they're probably very profitable. And I go, ooh.
All the data is there.
And then I go like, oh, they don't do that great. And then I'm my own interest. So 15 years of that. And then from many different levels, from the everyday to business owners, lending, and then at the very end of my banking career, it was on mostly investment, private wealth, and how really big money is created, saved, and moved on to the next generation. So that I learned the most, and everything else outside that economic circle. So that's why I started investing in little things, investing in myself, investing on many different parts. And my dream was to invest on things that I can walk into that business and be like, I own part of this. So that is, my full background, 15 years working with money, and I continue. Money is everything pretty much.
That never ends.
It never ends, yeah.
Beautiful.
So that leads us to that next question, which we wanted to ask you. So when we first came to you about Belly Dance Stories, the origin, a little bit of the origin story of Belly Dance Stories is I came to you and you already knew that I was starting to work with Valerie. And I was like, I called you and I said, babe, I need a loan for our theater show.
You needed it for the theater.
We needed it
for the rental.
For the rental of the theater. And then you stopped me and you were still at work. And he goes to me, he's like, let me just come home and we'll talk about it. And so we did. And I told you a little bit more about what our intentions were. But we wanted to ask you, why did you decide to become an investor in Belly Dance Stories? And also, another question is, could you define the difference between an investor and a sponsor for us?
All right. So I remember that day. I was in my office and I received a call, and I wish you had told me it was for the theater. I need a loan. Now I need to pay some.
Okay, it wasn't really like that, but
Yeah. But yeah, it changed a little bit, and I did my banker thing. Let me have a conversation with
yes.
you. Let me have a conversation. If I was a bad banker, I'll be like, yes, the rate is so and so, and it's gonna cost you so and so. A good banker will ask you a lot of questions. So I would like, relax. I'm gonna get home and we're gonna have a conversation about this. So that's how we went. I asked what we were trying to do, all of these things, and then I told you how a loan works, and then you will have to pay interest on it. You will have to start paying it back even months before your show. So I was trying to see. I want to see more. If there's an opportunity there, as an investor, I always go like, is there an opportunity there?
That's basically it.
Yes.
And I wanted to jump in and be like,
of course,
Yeah.
jump
but
in.
business means opportunity, right? And whenever we see an opportunity, we're like, all right, this is our time to do business with somebody. And business usually means fun, like funding. Either funding this way to then receive more funds this
back.
way. So definitely whenever we see an opportunity, that's a good opportunity, we want to jump in and help. So
And that leads to answering your second question. What is the difference between an investor and a sponsor? In that case, I was the investor because I didn't want my name all over the place. I didn't want to be, well, I'm here now, but that's for a different purpose. But I didn't want it to be part of like, your brand in a sense. I just wanted to be able to give you money for a return. And that's what investors do pretty much. And investors will help you out to make sure that you sell the tickets, help you with the marketing, help you with as much as they can, so they can assure that their money is going to come back, and then their returns are going to come back. And then, all investors work differently. It's different contracts, different. At the end, you have to negotiate with them, a give and take, and you will find if it's fair enough. So I made it fair, of course. But that's the part of the investor. That's the part. That's the. They don't want. I'm paying you to have my name there because people are gonna see my logo there. That the investor really doesn't care for that. And the sponsor, of course, is the other way. They will lend you, whether it's with money, with assistance, with studios. You will, at the same thing, you will work out a deal with them on either it's money or
publicity,
whichever of those. And then the ideal is like, you're gonna say that I'm sponsoring you because you have an audience, and then we want to be seen by your audience. And then that's the main difference between an investor and a sponsor. Sometimes they just give you the money to put a logo somewhere.
both opportunities.
Both opportunities.
Both.
Yeah.
Some is more
Correct.
on the financial side, and the other more on the marketing and acquiring your audience, right? So as a HGAB Studios sponsor to Belly Dance Stories, we saw the opportunity of harnessing an audience that we would have never technically tapped into, but still an audience that could potentially be of benefit to us. So that's why we decided, hey, I think that it would be a good idea after you guys came and asked us and Andres spoke to us. We were like, okay, this would be a good opportunity for us. So always an opportunity on both ends.
Correct. We always want to see the opportunity on not just to us, but what we had to offer serve you guys. And usually the best sponsors and how you should shop for your sponsors is like, this person has anything to do with my industry or could have something to do with my industry, and then make that connection there. We had something to offer that will benefit you guys. You guys dance in these beautiful dresses, and it's a shame to take a photo with an iPhone than with a full light or everything or whatever production it is. So we always like, we can have a benefit for them as well.
That was our next question, actually. Like,
Go
how
ahead.
can we identify them? How can I know who's going to be a good sponsor and who's going to be a good investor?
Like when we go shop for them or when we
Yes,
go ask,
exactly.
how can we approach? Are we approaching them as an investor or as a sponsor?
So I definitely think it depends on what you guys need, right? Funding is always important. So you can always ask a sponsor to fund you guys where you don't necessarily have to pay them back, but you give them value in other ways, right? In our case, we helped in many different sectors, whether it be in giving you guys an opportunity to come into the studios so you guys can develop the belly dance stories to then be able to showcase in the actual show. We gave you guys the opportunity to have equipment because we rent equipment, we rent studios. So there, for us, it was a couple different levels of sponsorship, let's say, and things that we can offer where you guys found value in that. And then vice versa, like I said, we found value in harnessing the audience that you guys were cultivating. So definitely, you know, what do you guys want? Before you jump into an investor meeting, you need to figure out what exactly it is that you want from that particular investor or sponsor, you know, because you could want money or equipment or both, or, you know, it's always nice to walk into the table and ask for things. A lot of people don't have, let's say, the guts to even ask for something, you know, which I think it's a very missed opportunity. You would be surprised how many things we've been able to acquire and get and because we just simply asked for it, you know? So definitely don't be afraid to ask for things. The worst thing that could happen is you get a no and then you move on to the next company or person or whatnot.
I think you mentioned something very important of like the organization of the ideas before. I think it's great what you're saying, like have that nice radiography of the project that you want to do so you can actually know, I need this amount of money, I need this amount of resources. And from there, I guess that you start kind of like tapping, okay, I need this from this sector, I need this support.
And it's also important to know what to give. Right?
That's
because
very important.
Both investors and sponsors are going to ask, okay, I'm giving you this,
it's
but what am I getting in return?
Yeah.
So it's important to know what you want and what you can give.
Yes.
Before you step into any meeting and just blur out a number or...
Yeah, I want to do this and...
Yeah.
In return, I have to give you this.
Exactly.
The part that consolidates all of that in the sense, like, what do you want? Like how Kendrick was asking, it comes down to a simple business plan. Even if you're just doing something small, and at least for me, and with Kendrick happens all the time, that he was like, we got to do this business idea. And I go like, okay, put it on one paper. What is the vision? What is the market search? What is the marketing strategy? What are your sales? And what do you hope to bring out?
Because here you can see it super crystal clear, but once you want to put it in concrete.
Oh, no, but imagine, you're not doing, I mean, you're doing it for yourself. But if you're going to ask me for money, I want to read it.
You want to read it,
and
see it?
And usually when a person comes asking me like, oh, you know, I have this little idea and stuff like that, okay, put it on a paper and send it to me.
Which we'll talk a little bit more later, but that is what we did for you. Which was really...
Correct. And then when it says, what do you want? So how do you shop for your sponsors? When you do your market research, and let's say in your case, your belly dancers, and you look at all of your industry, what do we use? What do we consume? How can a person will be benefit from our audience? Our audience are studio owners, dancers, you know, of course, regular people, and then so women. That's how you shop for them. You could have gone to makeup or things like that. So you had to do that because when you walked into that room with your business plan, you were like, my audience could be your audience. And you're already selling it to them, but you might not have tapped into ours. And then now they will see the benefit of providing you with funds. So you will have a higher chance of getting funded for anything that you're trying to do.
Fantastic. Those are great tips. Yeah, it's a lot of good information. Thank you, guys. So we're going to move on to the next question, actually. It's for Kendrick.
Okay.
We got a little backstory here. But Kendrick, my little story with HGAB is that I came in like 2018 and I knew because of Andres.
Late 17.
Oh, yes. Bueno, something around there. And being an artist, I wanted to look for a space that I could rent out. So I rented space out at HGAB. It was still growing. And so I've seen it grow, and it's been a tremendous and very fast growth, which is very cool and very special. So, and I always love my time here at HGAB, renting space and coming and working and seeing all of the creatives, you know, flow in and out. There's been so many creatives, so many people that I've met in this space. And fast forward, now HGAB has sponsored Belly Dance Stories. our podcast space and like how you were talking about rented equipment to us and just have been such an amazing sponsor that even our ladies and our dancers have really felt HGAB's presence. And when they come here, they feel really good and they feel really pro and well taken care of. Your slogan is "Creators Live Here," and you're a space that has multidisciplinary artists, and you have events like Meet Your Muse. So there's always people flowing in and out of here. I know that for sure.
Yeah.
But we wanted to know, could you tell us a little more about what it's like being a founder of a company like this, and also the vision that you guys originally had with this space?
Okay. So our company was always built with us in mind, right? When it came as creators, because we are creators at heart. So before we even started HGAB, we were creating things. We were creating other companies. We were creating, I love photography. I love video. And when our company was developing, and our company has gone through many stages of development, right? It started off as one thing, which was an online publication, and it basically has developed now into providing spaces and resources for creators in our community. So little by little through the stages, we've been bringing in other creators that we know could benefit from who we are. So for me, it's been very special creating a space where other creators feel comfortable and want to come, and they feel like this space is special because we essentially built this space for us, So we built it in a way where if we were coming in and we were not the founders of HGAB and we were not the owners of HGAB, how would we feel? How would we interact within the space? How do we interact with other people who are in the space? And you came in as an artist, and you had your own little space here at HGAB, and I always saw that time as such a beautiful time because it was one of our transitional phases of HGAB, and I think it was very important because it really helped us understand who we were really as a company and as a business, and also helped us understand what kind of creators we wanted to help in the future. And for us, it's all kinds of creators, right? You never know who would be stepping into the door 8 years ago, and at the same time, you don't know who's going to step into the door today. But as long as people are, one, creators and very excited to do what they want to do, we are very excited to help in that process for them. So I feel very happy that,
we're very happy too.
Thank you. Yeah, I just feel really happy and humbled and excited about what our project has been about and what our project will continue to be and develop.
And continue with your line of thought. If you could add also in the importance also of having creators from different disciplines.
Yeah,
also
different mediums.
Because we were talking just here, like if I'm a music artist, I'm going to need a photographer, I'm going to need a music video, I'm probably going to have to do a podcast to do the release of my album. So for any type of production, there's so many team members that you need. And it's great also I have beautiful collaboration with Alexandra, but I also have to constantly collaborate with artists from other disciplines.
Right.
And that's the great thing also about HGAB, that we can kind of like connect.
Yeah. So yeah, in a production, there's so many different facets. It's not just like one thing. So we've thought about how we can cater to each one of those facets when it comes to coming into the space and fulfilling the production. Because we know, hey, there's a lot of balls to juggle here. So how do we make what we offer as a company easy and accessible for creators and for the production? So definitely on the end to end, we've thought about, I want to say everything. I mean, we're always thinking about different things, but we've tried to think about everything in every different facet and how we can make that simple for productions. So thank you for noticing that.
It's great.
Do you find that it's really important, and how do you find that it's important to work with other artists or other people in other fields that are not yours? Like, what is that? How do you value that?
As an entrepreneur, again, I love to find opportunities, right? And the creative field is so broad. You can't label a creator just as a photographer or as an artist. Again, even entrepreneurs are creators at the end of the day. So I always like to tap into different industries and different people and see, where we might be missing the mark somewhere, where it might not apply to every industry throughout, but it could. But without asking and without trying to facilitate something for a certain person or industry or creator, that we will never know. So I've always been, this space is for everyone. It's totally up to you to decide what you want to do with the space and the resources and even the people inside the space. Right now you can walk outside the studio and have a conversation with someone and be completely mind blown by what they do and how they do it, and try to apply that to what you guys are trying to do. So I think that's why this space is so special, because there's so much resource in one place that it's kind of like it would be, it would be, how do I find the word? You need to utilize that. You need
It would be a shame not to utilize
it. It would be a shame to
Yeah.
to underutilize what this space is and what we've done here and all that good stuff. So definitely, like, just come here. I always tell people, like, come here, get inspired, create. Even you're not a photographer, okay, pick up a camera. Like, you never know what's gonna happen here. So
And you never know how you're going to grow as an artist, because once you reach out to another area that might not be your field, then you learn something new about yourself and maybe how you can run your business, or if it's just a trade and if it's just something you do for fun, you start to learn more about yourself. I know that sometimes in the dance industry, we talk about learning different dance styles outside of Oriental dance, learning ballet or modern or fusion or just something that has nothing to do with us. And we start to learn more about what we can do with our bodies and how we can communicate with other people. So it's very similar. Just like you said, you never know what will happen. It's a shame not to do it. And you should go out on an adventure and find, other people and spark those conversations.
absolutely, very important
Cool.
for development of yourself and your brand and your business, of everything.
That's something that we do here. On that, it is that we have an open door to any conversation. Even if you start a conversation with Ken and you start asking, like, how do you bottle this equipment, stuff like that, he'll be like, I don't know, you have to talk to him.
Or even about money and finance.
Or even amount of money. And it's funny, the door is always open for all of those. And if you're here doing a photo shoot and things like that, and you ask, and you're like, oh, how does this work? And then it will lead you to different paths, but we are here open with the knowledge and the support in many instances for artists or anybody, really.
Many times we get other entrepreneurs who want to basically duplicate this concept that we've done here. And I take the time and I sit down with them and I tell them exactly how we do it.
Yeah.
For me, it's not competition. For me, our general goal is to help the creative community. And if there's more spaces like these for creators to create, then we are doing what we set out to do, which is help the creative community. So I don't see other studios or any other entity wanting to duplicate what we've done here as a threat. I see it more as a helping hand to what our end goal is, which is help the community.
That's
And
so wonderful.
It's wonderful. We were actually talking about this earlier, of how in the U.S. you were researching that the government doesn't really fund the arts. It's more of like a private
there's
funding.
this, yeah.
And
I just find out that the government of the United States of America spend more money funding paper than arts. And that usually the model is to use the private sector to incentivize them to, promote arts.
Right. But
Just a fun
paper,
fact.
like physical paper?
Physical
or-
paper, yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
They don't make it simple. That's one thing, though.
Yes.
They don't make it
They
simple
don't make
for
it simple. Like to get a grant even from the government, it's like a science.
And usually the simple one, and it's complicated, is the National Endowment for the Arts. And then you had to do first your research, find the grants, do the paperwork. You also had to find other investors or know that it is, it is a one-to-one. You have to find a ratio, whatever they're asking for. And then they're usually how it works with grants because they want a level of commitment. But my thing is that they don't make it simple.
That's what it is.
It's just people usually come to me like, look, I received this, and even I had to go like, what is this? It is so complicated. Oh, in one of that we did something for HGAB, I go like, only because I have all this experience in lending and filling out these documents, I was able to actually pay something back to the government. Actually find that even I was like, wow, this is so complicated.
I feel like it's complicated for a reason though, right? Because it's very easy to ask for money, right? And I feel like, and in here, we talk about sponsorships. We get a lot of people asking us to sponsor them, but we can't sponsor everybody, and not every project is worth sponsoring. And as much as, it's exciting for you and it means the world to you, it might not even be at the stage to sponsor, so there is, and there should be, and there is some sort of, a homework and just things that you need to achieve and goals that you need to achieve before you go and step into getting a sponsorship. And I think it's very important for you guys to do your homework and to develop yourself and who you are and what you're doing and who your audience is and your target market and all that good stuff before you come in to ask for funding. And you'll see this all the time, if you watch the show Shark Tank.
Oh, I love it.
That's one of my favorite shows. And we actually get a lot of the sharks who come in here and do podcasts and all that cool stuff, which is super awesome for me. Side note.
Cool.
A plug. But I understand what it means for them to be like, no, you're not ready for an investment. You're not ready for this. You haven't gone through the trials and tribulations of what a business is really going to go through. All you have is paper, So it's like, I think there should be a little bit of red tape that you need to cross before you get funding from the government or from a private entity or whatever it might be. You have to do your due diligence.
Yeah. And in our case, for when I went to Andres,
I was thinking about that.
Yes.
I guess we can segue into that story.
Yeah, because
let me bring this microphone.
I had years of experience producing events. Okay. So when I came to ask for that money and that investment, I actually came with my evidence of my shows. I have brought this amount of people to the door. I have access to this amount of emails. I have access to these communities.
So let's put a little like a backdrop on that.
Exactly.
Right? Okay. So back to the story of when I had called Andres about a loan.
Okay.
Fast forward, he asks me, he becomes interested in this production, which actually, if our listeners, if you guys happen to have heard the episode 1, we had talked about how we just wanted to do a tiny little student show. Just because our ladies needed to perform after COVID. That's all it was. All of a sudden, it started to, kind of snowball into, oh my gosh, we could do this, we could do that. And then when Valerie and I get together, it's just a mountain of ideas and creativity. And we just can't stop, which is a good thing, but it's also, something to be careful with. So Andres comes in and he goes, okay, wait, hold on, hold your horses. This is what I need from you first. I need you to just bring me, a written proposal of what you're looking to do, what your goals are, X, Y, Z, also what both of your backgrounds are. And mind you, listeners, if you don't know, Andres and I, we've been together for 15 years. He is my boyfriend. But still working with family as most of us know, is very difficult working with family. So it's good to just respect our boundaries and also the professional fields that we're in. So Valerie and I did our homework. She came, we had a dinner. It turned into like a 5-hour long dinner. She came with her laptop. She came with all of the work that she's done, with a very extensive work that she's done. You can take it from there, actually, Val. And you brought your things.
And I brought my things and my numbers, and that's how I basically prove myself. But also, Andrej has been an audience member in my production, so I also had more evidence that was not only on the written paper. He also saw it.
And I had to do the same thing.
And
I wrote down everything that I had done in my art field for, creating little shows, curating my own shows, how I got some sponsorships here and there, and then also for the belly dance. So we both did our homework. And
that was an interesting story in a sense of that was from your perspective how you saw it.
So yeah,
that is your side, and then on my side was okay. You want money, and then immediately my brain goes into like, you're an investor. Let's hear more about this opportunity. It is if it's there. I don't want my name all over the place. And I told you, okay. I kind of pledged it beforehand. I go like, okay, this is how much I will be willing to for the little information, but I want to meet up with you two guys because I want to know what are you guys doing. Mm-hmm. And then that's when you guys showed up with computers and everything. We used to be so nice dinner, and it was 5 hours because I asked a lot of questions. There was a lot of things that I wanted to understand and didn't quite grasp. And that's something that an investor will do. I really wanted the project to work. I really wanted to step out of my box in this case, but I wanted to know how is the marketing going? Is it marketable? Can you do it again? So I asked all those questions. That's why it was a 5-hour meeting in the end. And I think that was the main reason why it didn't end up being just a small theater show for students like I have seen before. It became to what it is now. I think it was because I managed to ask a lot of questions and to get you guys going into like, okay.
It throw a lot of light also on things that we haven't even asked ourselves. Mm-hmm. But I think in my case, like I have received investors in a few projects, but once you get it, specifically with people that is so hungry like me and her, you're gonna go wild and beyond because you got finally that extra help, which allows you to also be more relaxed about certain things because now you can create not from a, how to say, money noise state of mind, which I think it's one of the worst things that could happen to us creators is to be trying to create something, but then have that little monster here asking you, where are you going to get the money? Or, are you going to be able to sell this show to get that money back?
There's 2 ways to go about it. And whether you have the money or not. And I'll give the 2 examples. Mm-hmm. For creators, for you guys, for anybody who doesn't have the backing just yet, I go like, forget about the money and create it. Create it on paper. Run it on paper. Run the company on paper. See how it will work out. That's a
great idea.
And with that, you can go with investors. Like, look, I did my homework. This is how much I have to sell. This is how much I have to do. This is how many pictures I have to take. And then, but do not think about the money if you don't have the money. If you don't have the backing, if you don't have the company, if you're just starting, forget about the money and just bring up your vision and put it on paper so it will solidify. The only reason I say put it on paper is because your mind is always changing things. It's always going too wild. Things that I'm like, you haven't even done 1, 2, 3 and you're already in 10. But that will keep you there. So that's the first step. Second, at HGAB, as a chief financial officer, I always tell them, okay, we want to do this, we want to develop that. Give us a budget. I'm like, no, create it. Create it, and then I will find the money. And I will give you the budget back, and then you will have to rearrange a little bit. I always go like, do not let the money hinder your creativity or what you want to do. And I always tell them, forget about the money. Just throw it at me. And then you go wild, and then you go, and then you will see like, oh, this is what is possible. And it's still gray. And then because what is possible, then it happens. And then so that's why a lot of people don't go very far, don't achieve, because they continue going wild and wild and wild. And I'm like, it's not gonna happen. Because
he only does that because he trusts us. No, I want to add something when it comes to finding an investor. I think it's very important that an investor or someone that's seeking an investor is not only just seeking money, but also guidance. Because when it comes to money, if an investor is just coming in for the money or to make money off the venture, then you're just going to have this person, like you said, in your ear. Where's my money? Where's my money? Where's my money? But an investor that can also guide you guys through the process and is fully invested in the project because they love the project is way more valuable than just funding, just receiving funding. So I would like to add that if you want funding, go to a bank. Because the bank's going to want their money back 100%, but they're not going to be knocking at your door every single day like, hey, where's my money? Where's my money? And if it's just money that you want, great. But an investor should bring more to the table than just money. And I think that's super important.
That's very important. That's a really good tip to look for. I don't think we think of that very often. I think we might also be afraid to ask for that support or for that guidance. You know, some people, they're just afraid to ask for help.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, women tend to do that more than men. But also since we're in an industry that's dance, that has to do with a lot of feminine energy and a lot of, mind, that's a very good tip to do, is just to, get out of that comfort zone, get out of that mentality and just go ask. And also to, when you do go ask, gauge, is this person also going to kind of help you, guide you, or ask you questions? And I guess by if they are asking questions like how Andres asked us
and you're going to
questions.
enter in a relationship with this person at the end of the day. Can you work with this person?
Yes.
Does this person listen to you when you talk to them? Does this person talk back when like what relationship are you having with this person? So,
Having flashback.
I bet,
Yeah. It's so true. Like I have become like a little bit more serious or specific of like with who I
you
accept
work
their
with.
money. Whereas,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes.
I'm sure you've gone through so many different scenarios where you're like, what did I put myself into?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Sleepless nights where you're like,
How can I get out of
do
here?
This? Yeah. And I know a lot of people are probably listening right now and saying, oh, well, you guys got an investor because that's your boyfriend. And you guys got an investor because you guys were friends from before and you were renting the space then and all that good stuff. But that's where it starts. On anything, you should always go to your friends and family first. And I know it's kind of hard to work with friends and family sometimes. So you have to, put hard boundaries on certain things and be very specific and have everything in writing even more.
Yes.
But don't be afraid to ask your friends and family
It's
for
a great
help.
way to practice.
Yeah. And for money and for, obviously, remember, you got to pay that person back and they're going to live with you at the end of the day, or you're going to see them every single day. So don't let that person down as well. So be responsible.
When it comes to the part of the investor, and then, in probably the reason you had the bad experiences, we are always protected by contracts. I did a contract for you guys.
Yes,
I'll
you
send
did.
it to you
Yes.
guys. I told you the guidelines, the ins, the outs, everything. So there's no gray areas. It's black and white. So you guys I didn't have to be on your ear, be like, oh, what are you doing? What are you doing? I'll be like, I'm a resource for marketing, for anything within my expertise. I'm a resource for I might have contacts. Remember, an investor more investors than anything else are a relationship. You build a relationship with them and then you put it under contract. So you don't have that, okay, I have the money and now that person, you cannot harass me now for X or Y. It is in the contract that I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to be doing and it is ongoing. But always look for those parts, like the contract and everything. That's why I did it for you,
Yeah, I'm glad you both brought that up because it was a really important thing that we did, that we respected, our boundaries. I kind of hinted at it, but we respected our professional boundaries and what we value ourselves. So it was good that, we still, the process of you becoming one of our investors was that of out of respect and out of, no, I value your work, you value my work. And though family could be tricky, but it also doesn't have to be if both parties understand, what. And honestly, family is one of our biggest supporters, or one of our first supporters, like you said.
Yeah. Usually
You
the
know?
They
problem
should be.
and the problem with family itself is because you guys don't draw contracts. It's like your mom or your dad. It's like, here's your money, but then whenever you guys have a fight, it's like, you're gonna give it back. But I'm like, even if it's your mom and dad, try just something simple. Like, look, these are my guidelines, and then we both sign here, and then now there's something solid. In at least with the money, and it separates the personal relationship from the business relationship.
Business.
Now it's business. So now you're protected. Now it goes to a different level. And
Professionalism.
correct.
Even from
and then even
from
the part
family.
With love, but professionalism.
Yeah.
and the part that was like, oh, like Kendrick was saying, it's like, oh, you guys got the money because your boyfriend and all these things. I'm like, I separate that. I could have said no if I didn't like the full idea. That's why I asked 1,000,001 questions.
I've been there.
Oh yeah,
I've been there too.
Countless
I'm just kidding.
times. It's like, I want to do this, I want to do this. And he's like, no, that doesn't make sense. And it's great. It's great to have a hard stop, because I'm a dreamer.
You
And
can
I'm
go wild.
Yeah, and for me, everything is possible and everything is easy and like this and the other. And then he's like, no, like, first of all, where's my one sheet?
correct. I never say no at the get-go. I always go like, okay, put it on paper, because on paper you organize yourself. And I can assure you, half the time you probably try to do the paper and you go like, oh, this is insane.
Yeah.
Like, no.
No, I want to say 90% of the time I don't bring him anything because it's like ridiculous. Well, what am I asking for?
But it does that. So now going into the other part, relationships. You had to build a network. You had to make friends. You had to be out there. Yeah, you're dancers. Usually artists are the one that are so, I don't know why. You only want to be rich or you want to make a living after you die. Why? And it shouldn't be like that. Go out, talk to people, show your art, do little expositions. So I know that you guys were mentioning that it's like, oh, you got the money. Kendrick says like, oh, you guys got the money that people will think like, 'cause I'm your boyfriend. But no, I would have to say no if I didn't like the project. And then it is on that part. I created the contract and all of it, but you had to build relationships. You had to go out there, be the artist, be out there and meet people, bring them in. Once you have that relationship, whenever it happens, they already know you. They already know what your work ethic is. I have seen some of your shows before. I know how you work and you organize, but I wanted to know more. And then the relationship was there, yes. But I did not give the money because or somebody's boyfriend. It was because it was an interesting show. And even it had a different name. I didn't like that name. I suggested
You
something.
suggested Belly and Stories, by the way.
Our original name was My Body Speaks.
Yeah, and I was like, what is he saying? What is the body saying? And then I go into like, how do you market that? And then you get stuck at My Body Speaks, you get stuck at what he's saying at that particular moment in that particular thing. But then with stories, everybody's story is different. The dance will tell you a story. The person will tell you a story. The scenery, the theater. So it was more broad. So you see how the opportunity is being more for me to actually put my money into. And again, for me, it was a different opportunity. It was a personal opportunity because I wanted to do it more in a philanthropic kind of way, the philanthropy of it. Like, I wish I just given you guys the money and be like, for the arts kind of situation. I'm not quite there yet, but I will be one day in which I have my own foundation. I'm just giving money for the arts. That's one of my...
You have your own personal goals.
My own personal goal in the future. For now, it's investment, so I can get more money and do that. And one of the things that once we discussed for those 5 hours, now there was a different type of show. It was more like a theater. It had the stories. I remember, I will never forget Valerie's face, because we're sitting here in this dinner table, and I go like, why don't you call it belly dance stories? And Valerie goes like, oh, wow.
Stop everything.
And then all her, I can see like fireworks, and I go like, okay, keep it. I know you're gonna do something with it. So it gets me excited on that. But I always wanted to invest something in the arts. You know, I don't purchase that much art for collectibles. I like more like the human side. Another reason was that I grew up around women. I grew up in a house with 14 women. And I would say it was a pleasant experience, seeing from the how they fight to like, it was all family, of course, how they fight, how they function and things like that. Also, the unfairness, I saw that. And then I saw it as an opportunity. And your community has always been, for 15 years, I've been around it. So I saw the opportunity on that sense too. So I was touched emotionally, plus business opportunity, plus a way for me to start embarking in a different topic, and I'll be your resource. And the last part of that, it is go speak to people with a relationship. You might get say no a lot for the money, but you will get a wealth of information. I can assure you, if you come to Kendrick or anybody who's like, oh, how you do this, how you do that, you will have us for hours. And that's something that I learned from my mentors. My mentors were business owners, doctors, all these things. And they will go off and I will just listen. And they will tell you everything to the detail. Most people, and a lot of them are wealthy, think like, oh, wealthy people, bad or evil. But if you ask them a question on how they build their business, they're so damn proud. And they will tell you to the detail, even where they got their money to beginning to end. And even if they don't give you any money for your venture, you now have a wealth of information. And I think most of my knowledge came from that more than the bank. The bank provided those customers for me, but it was up to me to ask the questions and get all those answers. But I tell everybody, go ask the questions. And that's something that I always say, like, I'm in a position right now, or I have decided for myself, I'm not going to volunteer information anymore. You know what I do? You know my expertise? Come ask me a questions. Sometimes I see people in Starbucks discussing, and I know it's kind of wrong, and I know how it works because I have that experience, but I don't go like, no. Yeah. No, if they don't know me. But if there's people that know me and they don't ask me a question, I will not volunteer. It will come... I don't know. People don't receive well. It's like, you should be doing this way. That instead you ask me, I know how you work. Or like, I have seen you. Tell me about your day. That happened the other day. We had a whole 30-minute discussion. And they came to me and asked me, how you run your day? And I talked for 20 minutes straight. And they were like, this was great. That later on, she sent me a message like, wow, it changed my perspective a little bit on some parts. And it's useful. It's
so crazy that you say that, because I feel like before myself, I would volunteer my information too, and be very like, oh, you know what you should do? Oh, you know what you should do? And I've slowly but surely been like, no, until someone asks me what my opinion is on something, that's when I'm going to speak to them. Because a lot of people goes in from one ear and out the other.
And they're not ready to receive it.
They're not ready for that unless you're seeking information. With us, we seek information all the time. And that's why we can sit down with anybody. It could be anyone, and we'll have a nice conversation, and we'll get so much out of that conversation because we're asking the right questions. But when your opinion, and you're just blurring out your opinion to different things, it's not received. So why waste your time?
Yeah, you will find your level. I know where to go to ask those questions, and I know who comes to me for those questions. Right now, you're in a different environment. You're building this big show. Maybe 3 years from now, you're not going to go to a belly dancer who is starting the little show and be like, you should do this or that. No, you won't do that. You probably will go to someone who does like a show that is above you, some Broadway thing or something like that, and you ask it, how you do that? How you do this? And they will give you the information. But when you go to them like that, it's like, how you telling me to run and my own show, they won't even, I don't know, I find it not well received.
For me, it's funny because on the flip side, when people tell me their opinions, obviously I don't use every single opinion that they give me, but I love to receive that information. So when people do come up to me and they're like, oh, you know what you should do? Or you know what you should do? Or you know what you should do? Especially knowing what my field is and all that stuff, I just sit there and I listen, because sometimes they have good things to say. I'm not necessarily asking them, but they'll just blur it out and they'll say like, oh, you should do this and this and that. And then I'll be like, that's a good, feedback. So I love to receive feedback. I don't necessarily give it too much unless asked for.
Feedback is different than advice.
Or opinions.
When it comes to financial advice, I don't go out of my way anymore. You know what I do. Come to me.
Moral of the story, keep asking the questions and keep taking in information from different sources.
Keep learning.
All different.
Keep talking to people. Keep dabbling in different things that have nothing to do with what you're doing. You just never know what you're going to find.
Or
if you have the time.
Think you don't know that has nothing to do with what you're doing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Maybe it does.
Yeah, 100%.
Wonderful. So should we ask our last question?
Yes.
Okay.
Bueno, you already kind of like answer a little bit, Andres. We wanted to ask you about your male perspective out of our production, which you gave us a beautiful insight. And we wanted to ask Kendrick about how can people approach HGAB and other companies for sponsorship.
Cool. So for us, the process is very simple. We try to make it as simple as possible. Before you ask us, make sure you know what you're asking, which we've already touched up on that. Make sure you're at the stage to receive sponsorship, which we've already touched up on that as well. But generally, it's very simple. If you don't know us personally and can have a one-on-one conversation with us, sending an email with a lot of information in that email generally helps. That way, if we do decide that, hey, this is a project that I think could align well with HGAB Studios, then we'll go ahead and reach back out and we'll schedule a meeting and we'll have that one-on-one sit down. Because, like I said, one thing is having a really cool project, but I also need to know who's leading that project. For me, that's probably more important than having a really cool project. Because we can develop, if the project is not there, we can develop it together. But if the person is not there, there's nothing I can do about that. So it's very important that, you know what you want, you're at the stage that you know what you want. And then if we think it aligns with what we are trying to do, then we'll jump on board and we'll have that sit down conversation. And we'll try to help.
To add a little bit to that, it is internally how the company sees it. Is like, do we have the resources? Are we interested? And then we see the opportunity, even if the resources, so we balance all that out before we go into what we can give. Sometimes, as we have said before, sometimes it's money, sometimes it's resources, but not to discourage anybody. Do your due diligence and ask. Always go. You never know what answer you're going to get. Always go out there.
Yeah, just ask.
Yeah. This was a very valuable conversation.
Wait, I want you to ask me the question you were going to ask him.
Oh,
I still want to answer that.
What do you think about our production? Yeah.
But what do you think about our production, or as females?
I think you had male perspective.
A male perspective.
We were curious what the male perspective was. Yeah.
On the female production, on an all female production.
You can throw it like that.
I see your all female production as any kind of production. It has no gender. Creation is creation, it doesn't matter who you are. So when it comes to HGAB, we don't see gender, we don't see race, we don't see anything that involves the human except for what their values are as a human being and like if we can work together. So whether it doesn't matter who you are, if you're a creator and you want to do something cool, we will totally be about that.
Yeah. And I was biased on that because I told you I just told you the story, but I see how hardworking you guys are. I have seen you. I know the story from your show. So how hard you work behind the curtain and all those things to bring these productions. And this one, it has been quite the work. 'Cause I'm very involved. I get a lot of, like, every week is something on marketing or whatever it is. So like, the stories themselves and try to put something together and something that it keeps on growing. And I can see the next years even in growing to many different levels.
Aspects. Yeah.
And then for me, that's the fun part. But I loved seeing the hard work and from the male perspective, women work so hard. So hard, and I'm saying less than men, but it just for some reason for me is perspectively speaking, I was like they're relentless, and nothing stops them, and I can see like the hustle. So yeah, I know my money is safe there. I have a good bet.
It's so interesting about the male perspective because you guys were asking about. When other entrepreneurs come for you to ask questions, and now I'm going to jump into another topic. But in our business, actually, I would say that many of my business friends, they will get very suspicious if somebody else will come and be like, hey, how do you do your business? How do you run it? It can get very catty.
Yeah.
But I have always had that suspicious that guys manage businesses different than ours. And yeah, somehow the way we relate
I've
it's
never
so
seen
fresh.
it as like a catty thing.
Yeah.
You know,
You don't see
it is
it.
a little bit different the way we perceive things than the way females perceive things.
Exactly.
For you guys, it might seem like a catty, like, what, you're coming for me? Or
Exactly.
you're coming for my business?
Exactly.
For us guys, it's never about you know, a jealousy or like, oh my God, they're gonna come for my business, or they're gonna try to. It's more like we're all buddies. We're all trying to just help each other. At least me. I guess that's not a good thing. That's not always
we
a
all
good
have
thing.
our biases, yeah, because our dance community is just very tiny.
It's very tiny.
and also, I don't know.
Not anymore.
But
It's growing.
What,
It's
what you guys have
Yeah.
is going to be very big. And that tiny community, because you guys are here in Miami, seems small, but this thing is gonna explode for you guys.
we want to make it big. That's why we invest. That's why we sponsor, because we see the value in what you guys are doing, and then I can see how it can grow. And another part is like, if you guys get very big or famous, don't forget about us. But it's like it feels great to be part of something that you guys were really hard. I've seen the numbers, keeping the accounting and not just the artistic part. It's all that come together, and the people that you work with. I have seen that too, and how there's so much potential for everybody to grow by working together. It's not a competition, it's a collaboration.
Exactly. That's what I'm going
Business,
for.
it's not a competition. A good business is a collaboration more than a competition, and that's how you move forward.
And what you're saying, Kendrick, like when you see and you're trying to help other creators, you already know that, if they're building more space for creators will mean that there's going to be more
creators.
More creators.
That's it.
Which at the end is going to be beneficial for me.
That's our end goal, to help
Yes.
the creative community. That's
And the collaborations, I think, are so essential for business, period.
It's so
and
important.
It's so important. And they're so effective. I think, like, I have done really well as a freelancer dancers precisely for doing this type of collaborations. So this has been a very refreshing conversation.
It really has. Thank you.
I hope that the audience also gets, especially the artists, that there's this myth that artists cannot do business or they're bad at doing business. And there's so many ways we can do it. And I do feel like as an entrepreneur also, there's an important aspect of creativity and arts involved in the way that we build businesses. So thank you so much, guys.
Thank you guys.
Thank you
welcome.
guys
Thank
so
you.
much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
So thank you for listening to this amazing podcast of Belly Dance Stories. Make sure you get your tickets for our next production Sunday, April 30th at the Sandral Rivers Theater. Where they can find out everything about us?
Everything about us is on our website. It's bellydancestories.com. And we also have an Instagram, bellydancestories_, bellydance_stories, and also our YouTube channel and our Spotify. And
That
that's
was
it. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Hey.